Perhaps. She took a shortcut, which is why she came out before me. How old is she? Her strength can't possibly be greater than mine. Yiling kept reassuring herself. She couldn't believe she'd been surpassed by a woman younger than her, as the strongest among the younger generation of the great Qing dynasty. She possessed her own pride. Tianwu, that Yiling seems quite unconvinced by you, Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. Feng Tianwu glanced at Yiling indifferently and then ignored her. A woman more than 10 years her senior wasn't worth comparing herself to. After Yiling of the great Qing dynasty emerged ninth. The 10th person also came out. Lig of the great Tang dynasty. Lig, a handsome young man around 35 years old, was also the 11th prince of the great Tang dynasty. With this, all the owners of the top 10 tokens had appeared. Token number 1 owner, Duan Ling Tian. From the great Han dynasty. Token number 2 owner, Zishang. From the great Han dynasty. Token number 3 owner, Qi Feng. From the great Qi dynasty. Token number 4 owner, Qin Kong. From the great Qin dynasty. Token number 5 owner, Tom Mu. From the great Yuan dynasty. Token number 6 owner, Liu Yong. From the great Ming dynasty. Token number 7 owner, Feng Tianwu. From the great Han dynasty. Token number 8 owner, O Chun. From the great Chu dynasty. Token number 9 owner, Yi Ling. From the great Qing dynasty. Token number 10 owner, Li Ji. From the great Tang dynasty. 3 of the top 10 token owners are from the great Han dynasty. This time, the great Han dynasty has truly stolen the show. Representatives from various dynasties sighed with emotion. Of course, the representatives of 2 dynasties had gloomy expressions, as none of the young talents recommended by their respective dynasties had managed to obtain a top 10 token. Now, the owners of the top 10 tokens had all appeared one by one. The owners of the remaining 40 numbered tokens also emerged. Figures stepped out from the exit of the illusory palace, appearing above the dueling arena in an instant. Among these people were Su Li, Long Yun, and Zhang Shouyong, who returned to Duan Ling Tian's side. The young talents participating in this 10 dynasties martial arts meet are truly hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I thought my speed was fast, but I only got token number 12. Su Li sighed. Su Li received token number 12, and Long Yun received token number 19. To Duan Ling Tian's surprise, Zhang Shouyong actually got token number 15. Immediately, his spiritual energy extended, intending to probe Zhang Shouyong's depth, and he eventually discovered a clue. Zhang Shouyong, at some unknown point, had already broken through to the void prying stage. 2nd level. Congratulations, Brother Zhang. Duan Ling Tian smiled and congratulated Zhang Shouyong. Brother Ling Tian, nothing escapes you. Zhang Shouyong gave a wry smile. While surprised that Duan Ling Tian could see through his cultivation, he wasn't entirely unexpected that in his opinion, no matter what miracle occurred, as long as it happened to his brother Ling Tian, it wasn't a miracle at all. Brother Zhang has broken through? Feng Tianwu's eyes lit up, and she immediately congratulated Zhang Shouyong. Miss Tianwu, you came out before us. What token number did you get? Su Li looked at Feng Tianwu and asked with some anticipation. What? Originally, after Zhang Shouyong came out, he was already surprised to see Feng Tianwu emerge before him, but he only thought she came out ahead of him. Now, hearing Su Li say this, he realized that Feng Tianwu had come out even before Su Li had obtained token number 12. This meant that the token Feng Tianwu obtained was either token number 11 or one of the top 10 tokens. Tianwu is much stronger than you. Jian Shursen was clearly dissatisfied that Su Li only got token number 12 and intended to strike at Su Li. Tianwu got token number 7. Token number 7? As soon as Jian Shursen spoke, Su Li instantly turned to stone, and Zhang Shouyong and Long Yun were also dumbfounded. You brat, you're at the bottom again this time. It seems I'll have to properly train you with special methods once we return to the sect. Dao. Wu looked at Long Yun and said through gritted teeth. Long Yun's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. Duan Ling Tian, what's your token number? After recovering, Su Li asked Duan Ling Tian with a wry smile. as if trying to find some balance from Duan Ling Tian. If Duan Ling Tian was also inferior to Feng Tian Wu, then he could use that to refute his master. Unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed. Number 1. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Immediately, Su Li turned to stone again, and Zhang Shouyong, who had just recovered, couldn't help but cough, choking on his own saliva. Long Yun's expression darkened slightly. He hadn't expected Duan Ling Tian to get token number 1, which also indicated that Duan Ling Tian was the first to emerge from the illusory palace. Duan Ling Tian, since you were the first to come out, do you know who the other 8 people are who got the top 10 tokens, besides Tianwu? Su Li asked again. Soon, Su Li learned from Duan Ling Tian who the other 8 people were who obtained the top 10 tokens. That he wasn't particularly surprised that Zishang got token number 2. He had witnessed Zishang's secret technique, which was extremely powerful. Back then, Zishang was only at the void prying stage, 9th level. But when he used that secret technique, his strength instantly rose to the void prying stage, 4th level. Now, Zishang had most likely broken through to the void prying stage like them. And when he used that secret technique, his strength would be at least at the void prying stage, 5th level or higher. It seems that in this 10 dynasties martial arts meet, only you can restrain Zishang. Su Li sighed. Zishang. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed with cold light. He had already decided that in the 4th round of selections, he would challenge Zishang first. Unless Zishang voluntarily conceded, he would ensure Zishang died without a burial place. As time passed, the sky gradually darkened. Evening arrived as scheduled. The 50 young talents from the 10 great dynasties finally all emerged, and the 50 numbered tokens each found their owners. Tomorrow morning, the 3rd round of selections will commence. At that time, the top 10 of this 10 dynasties martial arts meet will be decided. Ningqian announced, then left with Feng Wei. Zishang and Lu Yong followed them. That Zishang. Seeing this, Su Li and Zhang Shouyong couldn't help but be stunned. Zishang has already been taken in as a direct disciple by Ningqian. Duan Ling Tian said that Su Li and the other man then realized. I never thought that token number 1 would be obtained by Duan Ling Tian of the Great Han Dynasty. He's really lucky. It must be luck. Many young talents from other dynasties discussed animatedly, clearly not believing that Duan Ling Tian had obtained token number 1 by his own strength. Duan Ling Tian couldn't be bothered to pay attention. Luck? Tomorrow, in the 3rd round of selections for the 10 dynasties martial arts meet, he would prove his strength with his actions and make these people shut their mouths. Today, the biggest winner was undoubtedly the Great Han Dynasty. Out of the top 10 tokens, the Great Han Dynasty alone claimed 3, leaving the other 9 great dynasties with only envy, jealousy, and hatred. The emperor of the Great Han Dynasty's smile never faded. At this moment, he seemed to have completely forgotten the deaths of his son and nephew. Let's go back. Duan Ling Tian and his group quickly left the dueling arena and returned to their respective pavilions. It's still a bit short. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Duan Ling Tian cultivated for a while, then sighed, realizing his cultivation hadn't progressed at all. Although his cultivation was being boosted by the powerful medicinal effects of the Nirvana pill, it was still a bit short of breaking through to the void prying stage, 3rd level. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian knew he shouldn't continue to obsess over improving his cultivation, because even if he did, his cultivation, stuck in a bottleneck, would be difficult to advance. He was now like someone who had entered a dead end, and to get through it, he needed to calm down first to come up with a good solution. Getting out of bed and leaving his room, Duan Ling Tian stood outside the Narcissus Pavilion, practicing the heaven rank high-grade offensive martial skill, 9 Dragons Inch Radiance Flash, while holding a Wind Intent fragment and continuing to comprehend Wind Intent. The 9 Dragons Inch Radiance Flash became increasingly proficient, to the point where he could wield it like an arm. Even the 3rd Divine Dragon was almost able to take shape, and once it did, he would have entered the minor accomplishment stage. As4 Wind Intent. I just comprehended 2nd level, mid-grade Wind Intent today, so it's hard to improve it further for a while. Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself. One night passed quickly. The next morning arrived in an instant. As soon as the sky began to lighten, Duan Ling Tian had already walked out of his room and met up with Feng Tianwu, who had also come out of her room. Then they ascended into the air. Feng Wu Dao was already standing in the air, waiting for them, above the dueling arena. After the representatives of the various dynasties and the young talents had all arrived, the vice fortress master of Tsangwolf Fortress, Ning Kan, and Feng Wei appeared one after another, with Zishang and Lu Yong following them like shadows. Today, we will begin the third round of selections for the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Meet. The rules for the third round are as I stated yesterday before the second round began. The owner of token number 1 will initiate challenges, but cannot challenge the owners of tokens number 2 to number 10. Asterisk. Ning Kan reiterated the rules for the third round of selections for the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Meet once more. Additionally, those who have just fought a match can rest temporarily. The person initiating the next challenge must not challenge them. Ning Kan continued. In the third round of selections, life or death is not considered. One can verbally concede, and no one is allowed to attack a person who has conceded. The young talents felt their hearts tighten, then nodded one after another. Now, the owner of token number 1 can step onto the stage and initiate a challenge. Excluding the owners of tokens number 2 to number 10, you can choose anyone. Ning Kan glanced at Duan Ling Tian indifferently. Although he wished he could slice Duan Ling Tian into 1,000 pieces, he knew he couldn't lose his composure now. Whoosh. Just as most people's gazes fell on Duan Ling Tian moved, appearing like a ghost in the central area above the dueling arena. Owners of tokens 11 to 50, step forward and line up according to your token numbers. Ning Kan pointed to an empty space. Immediately, 40 young talents, including Su Li, Zhang Shouyong, and Long Yun, flew out one by one and formed a neat queue. Duan Ling Tian stood in the center of the arena, scrutinizing the 40 young talents lined up before him, his eyes flashing. Among these people, besides the familiar faces of Su Li, Zhang Shouyong, and Long Yun, there was one more face he recognized well. Duan Ling Tian has the number 1 token, giving him absolute initiative. Who do you think he'll challenge? Someone couldn't help but ask in a low voice. That goes without saying. He'll definitely challenge the owner of token number 50. Another person said as a matter of course. Most people agreed with this. However, at this moment, Duan Ling Tian's gaze was not on the owner of token number 50, but rather fixed on the last familiar face besides Su Li, Zhang Shouyong, and Long Yun, the owner of token number 17, Zhao Wei. He was the strongest among the contemporary young generation of the Zhao family in the Daming dynasty, and second only to Lu Yong among the contemporary young generation of the Daming dynasty. Most importantly, Zhao Wei had previously had a conflict with Duan Ling Tian several months ago on the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower in the capital of the Daming dynasty. Zhao Wei was defeated by Duan Ling Tian without even touching a corner of his clothes. I choose to challenge the owner of token number 17. After Duan Ling Tian's gaze locked onto Zhao Wei, he said frankly. Immediately, everyone present was in an uproar. This Duan Ling Tian. He actually challenged the owner of token number 17? As far as I know, even beyond token number 10, there are quite a few existences above the void prying stage 2. This Duan Ling Tian. Could it be that he's confident he can defeat a martial artist above the void prying stage 2? Many people who doubted Duan Ling Tian's strength discussed amongst themselves, and Zhao Wei, challenged by Duan Ling Tian, his face ashen, took a deep breath under the burning gazes of others and said frankly, I concede. Concede. As soon as Zhao Wei uttered these words, a chorus of boos immediately erupted at the scene. Who is this person from which dynasty? To be able to obtain token number 17, his strength must not be weak. Yet he doesn't even have the courage to step onto the stage and fight. Many people looked at Zhao Wei with disdain. I know him. He's one of the 2 most outstanding young talents of the Daming dynasty, on par with Lu Yong, Vice Fortress Master Feng's direct disciple. No way. A coward like him is on par with Lu Yong? You must be joking. I also think such a coward doesn't deserve to be on par with Lu Yong. Being on par with him is simply an insult to Lu Yong. Many people kicked him while he was down. In this world where the strong are respected, cowards are the most looked down upon. Zhao Wei's fear without fighting made people disgusted. Zhao Wei's face alternated between green and pale as he heard the sarcastic remarks from his surroundings. But he had no way to refute them. He was indeed afraid. Afraid of Duan Ling Tian. Back then, when he fought Duan Ling Tian, he was defeated without even touching Duan Ling Tian's clothes. If Duan Ling Tian hadn't held back, he wouldn't be standing here now. Just now, when Duan Ling Tian looked at him, the coldness in his eyes was clear to him that he knew that once he accepted the challenge, his life would no longer be in his own hands. Therefore, in order to live well, he dared not accept the challenge and directly conceded. For him, this was the wisest choice. Thanks. Duan Ling Tian took a deep look at Zhao Wei, thanked him, and then returned to Feng Tianwu's side. For a moment, Zhao Wei was so angry that his face alternated between green and pale. Next, it was the turn of the owner of token number 2. The owner of token number 2, Zishang, a young talent from the Dahan dynasty, was now also the direct disciple of Ning Can, the vice fortress master of Songlong Fortress. I heard that this Zishang has been taken as a direct disciple by vice fortress master Ning. He is the second person to pass through the illusory underground palace after Duan Ling Tian. To be taken as a direct disciple by vice fortress master Ning, he must not be a simple character. Many people's gazes fell on Zishang, discussing him. After Zishang stepped onto the stage, his gaze fell on the owner of token number 50, a young man in green, and he spoke lightly. Owner of token number 50. The young man in green was called out by Zishang. Although fear rose from the bottom of his heart, he still gritted his teeth and flew out to confront Zishang. If it weren't for the scene of everyone ridiculing Zhao Wei just now, he might have also simply conceded. Now, with a precedent, for the sake of his dignity, he didn't do that. If I can't win, I'll concede. The young man in green thought to himself. He had already made up his mind that if he couldn't defeat Zishang, he would concede immediately. Conceding this way was more dignified than Zhao Wei's. After all, Zhao Wei didn't even have the courage to step onto the stage. You dare to step onto the stage? Seeing that the young man in green did not concede voluntarily and even dared to step onto the stage to confront him, preparing to fight him, Zishang's face immediately darkened. His sworn enemy, Duan Ling Tian, challenged the owner of token number 17, and the latter didn't even have the courage to step onto the stage, directly conceding. Now, he challenged the owner of token number 50, and he originally thought that the other party should also not dare to step onto the stage or even directly concede. This way, he wouldn't lose to his sworn enemy, Duan Ling Tian. However, things did not go as he wished. The owner of token number 50, after being called out by him, stepped onto the stage calmly, as if he wasn't afraid of him, which greatly shocked him and made him feel violent. No matter what, I have to try, the young man in green said through gritted teeth. Sometimes, a wrong decision can cost you your life. Zishang's eyes were filled with bloodthirsty killing intent. Since the owner of token number 50 made him lose face, he would make him atone with his life. Humph. The young man in green's face changed drastically when he heard Zishang's words, but he still braced himself and flew out, his spiritual weapon appearing in his hand, his vital energy fully unleashed, and his intent following him like a shadow. The young man in green used all his skills, triggering a celestial phenomenon, forming over 50 ancient horned dragon phantoms. Void prying stage 1 cultivation. One-fold void prying intent. 4th grade spiritual weapon, whoosh. Facing the young man in green's charge, Zishang's expression remained unchanged. With a lift of his hand, an extremely ancient guqin appeared in his hand. As Zishang raised his hand, vital energy coiled around him, and 30 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared in the sky above his head, indicating his current cultivation, void prying stage 2. This Zishang he actually broke through? Duan Ling Tian's pupils contracted that if he remembered correctly, Zishang was still only a void prying stage 1 martial artist yesterday. How could he have broken through to void prying stage 2 overnight? It seems that Ning Can gave him some benefits. Perhaps he broke through after consuming some spiritual fruits. Duan Ling Tian could easily guess this point. seeing Zishang display his void prying stage 2 cultivation. The young man in green's face changed, and his figure instantly slowed down. Beginning to decelerate at the same time, he opened his mouth. Icon. Unfortunately, he was destined not to say the word seed, *zheng. As Zishang's hand fell, striking the surface of the guqin, the strings vibrated, suddenly emitting a piercing roar at the same time. A materialized azure crescent-shaped ripple, entwined with a wisp of scorching flame aura, swept out, targeting the young man in green midway. The flame aura expanded even further, fire powered by wind. Void prying stage 2 cultivation, a one-fold mid-level wind intent. Activating a low-level fire intent, coupled with a 4th-grade spiritual weapon guqin, gave Zishang the power of over 70 ancient horned dragons. Buzz. The crescent-shaped ripple, emitting wisps of scorching flame aura, severed the young man in green in two before he could even utter the word concede. Zheng, 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 zheng. Immediately after, a series of piercing string-snapping sounds rang out again, and one by one half-moon-shaped ripples, emitting scorching flame auras, seemed to form a dense giant net, engulfing the young man in green's severed corpse. The next moment, only a sky full of blood rain remained in the air. After the blood rain fell to the ground, the young man in green's corpse was nowhere to be found. Hiss, 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 hiss. Above the arena, gasps of cold air rang out, and many people looked at Zishang with fear. Some female martial artists were even scared pale. When had they ever seen such a bloody scene? That owner of token number 50, he died unjustly. Yes, he was about to concede, but he was killed before he could even say the word concede. However, this Zishang is actually only a void prying stage 2 martial artist, and his comprehended intent, it seems only his wind intent, is one-fold void prying intent. His fire intent is only void entry intent. He doesn't even have a 3rd-grade spiritual weapon. How did he become the second person to emerge from the illusory underground palace? While many people lamented the unjust death of the owner of token number 50, they began to question Zishang's strength in their opinion. With Zishang's ordinary strength and methods displayed just now, it was unlikely that he would even be able to get a token ranked in the top 20. According to common sense, yet Zishang obtained token number 2. If he really only has this much strength, it's impossible for him to get token number 2. Qi Feng, the 9th prince of the Daqi dynasty, who held token number 3, his eyes flashed. He subconsciously felt that Zishang had definitely held back a lot in his previous move, and he held back a lot. Perhaps he found some shortcut. You know, he's from the Dahan dynasty, and 3 people from the Dahan dynasty all got tokens in the top 10. Qin Kong, the owner of token number 4 from the Daqin dynasty, stood not far from Qi Feng. After hearing Qi Feng's murmur, he snorted disdainfully. For a time, more and more people questioned that Zishang's token number 2 was obtained through opportunistic means. I knew it. How could Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu from the Dahan dynasty, 128 and 125, possibly get token number 1 and token number 7? It turns out that people from the Dahan dynasty have mastered opportunistic methods. If Zishang, with this much strength, can get token number 2, then Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu can't be much stronger. It's a good thing that Zhao Wei of the Daming dynasty, fearing Duan Ling Tian's number 1 token, conceded without even the courage to step onto the stage. Now, he's probably regretting it immensely, isn't he? If that Duan Ling Tian challenged me, I would definitely accept. Not only would I accept, but I'd also defeat him and snatch his number 1 token. If I could get the number 1 token, that would be awesome. From then on, I could challenge whoever I wanted, picking on the weakest, and getting into the top 10 of the 10 dynasty martial arts meet would be effortless. At this moment, many young talents were hoping that Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu would challenge them. In their opinion, the number 1 token in Duan Ling Tian's hand and the number 7 token in Feng Tianwu's hand were not obtained through genuine skill, but through opportunistic means. Of course, there were also some who were familiar with Duan Ling Tian and Zishang, who knew that the tokens in Duan Ling Tian's and Zishang's hands were definitely not obtained through opportunistic means. After Zishang, The number 2 token holder stepped down. The number 3 token holder, Qi Feng, stepped onto the stage. Having the power of the number 3 token, Qi Feng naturally wouldn't hesitate to use it. Directly choosing the number 49 token holder, the opponent conceded. Then, the number 4 token holder, Qin Kong, stepped up, and his opponent also conceded. The number 5 token holder, Ta Mu, and the number 6 token holder, Lu Yong, followed closely, and their opponents also lacked the courage to fight them. Next, it was the turn of the number 7 token holder, Feng Tianwu. Feng Tianwu flew out, choosing the number 45 token holder, a tall and robust young man nearing middle age. With messy hair falling over his shoulders, the young man was over 2 meters tall, standing in front of Feng Tianwu like a giant. "Little girl, you're quite pretty. It's a pity your number 7 token was obtained through opportunistic means. You're destined to be no match for me. Hand over the number 7 token and concede," the giant-like young man said in a deep voice. "Otherwise, don't force me to be ruthless." "Huh, big guy, you have to be gentle. She's just a young girl of only 25. Someone couldn't help but laugh aloud. For a moment, many people followed suit and laughed. These people all thought Feng Tianwu had no real strength. "If you want the number 7 token, come and get it yourself." Facing the young man's arrogance, Feng Tianwu's expression remained unchanged, standing in midair, her red robe fluttering without wind, as if transforming into a fiercely burning flame. "This little girl is truly clueless. In that case, let me teach you a good lesson." A sinister smile appeared at the corner of the young man's mouth, and the next moment, his tall and robust figure shot out, seemingly clumsy, yet not affecting his speed in the slightest. As he charged towards Feng Tianwu, a huge wolf-tooth club appeared in the young man's hand, with elemental energy flickering within it, then transforming into a solidified flame. Nearly 60 ancient horned dragon phantoms then surged out. Although he looked down on Feng Tianwu, in this 10 dynasty martial arts meet duel, he dared not show any slack. Going all out from the start, power suppresses mountains and rivers. The young man suddenly roared, and the wolf-tooth club in his hand, burning with fierce flames and carrying the power of nearly 60 ancient horned dragons, struck down towards Feng Tianwu. Many of the young talents present, seeing this scene, cursed the young man for not cherishing beauty, and couldn't help but close their eyes, unwilling to see the beautiful woman perish. However, they soon opened their eyes again, and genuine surprise appeared on their faces. The reason they opened their eyes was entirely due to the young man's agonizing scream. When they opened their eyes, they saw a scene they would never forget. The red-robed woman, standing there like a fire spirit, remained motionless. Meanwhile, the young man who had smashed out his 4th-grade spirit weapon, the wolf-tooth club, intending to kill the red-robed woman, was sent flying backward like an arrow released from a bowstring. As he flew backward, he screamed and spat out clotted blood. At this moment, not only was the wolf-tooth club in the young man's hand knocked away, but even his messy hair was burned to ashes, turning him completely bald. What just happened? The young talents who had closed their eyes earlier, unable to bear seeing Feng Tianwu perish, all snapped back to reality, asking in a flurry of questions. They never expected that the 25-year-old woman would actually defeat the giant-like young man. So strong. With just one palm, without even using a spirit weapon, she heavily injured and sent flying the number 45 token holder. Her strength is at least at the 2nd level of the void prying stage. Moreover, the flame she controls is even more solidified than the flame controlled by the number 45 token holder, at least a 2nd-level intermediate fire concept. Is she really only 25 years old? Feng Tianwu's strength caused a commotion at the scene. A 25-year-old woman displaying such cultivation and concept made them feel utterly ashamed, wishing they could dig a hole and crawl into it. What a pity. She only made a brief move, and the heaven and earth phenomenon didn't have time to fully form before it dispersed again. Although the heaven and earth phenomenon didn't form, one thing is certain. She is a martial artist above the 2nd level of the void prying stage, and has comprehended an intermediate fire concept above the 2nd level. A woman with such talent and achievement is enough to make countless men feel ashamed. The entire arena above the fighting platform completely erupted due to Feng Tianwu's fleeting display of power. What a powerful girl. Even Ning Can, the deputy fortress lord of Kangwolf Fortress, couldn't help but look at Feng Tianwu a few more times, and later, his eyes were filled with killing intent that a genius martial artist with such heaven-defying talent and comprehension. If she couldn't join their Kangwolf Fortress, he would rather see her die prematurely than let her live. Such a monstrous existence. Once she stood on the opposite side of Kangwolf Fortress in the future, would undoubtedly become a grave threat to Kangwolf Fortress. That was something he was unwilling to see. Shanga, if this woman can pass the third round of selections and advance to the fourth round, you must kill her. Ning Can looked at Zishang and said with elemental energy condensed into sound, "Yes, master." Upon hearing this, Zishang's gaze, filled with chilling intent, fell upon Feng Tianwu, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. That Ning Can wants Zishang to kill Tianwu? Duan Ling Tian's observation skills were astonishing. He easily noticed the killing intent flickering deep in Ning Can's eyes when he looked at Feng Tianwu. And he also noticed Zishang's reaction after Ning Can glanced at him. He guessed Ning Can's intentions. Asterisk. I'd like to see if you, Zishang, kill Tianwu, or if Tianwu kills you, Zishang. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Duan Ling Tian's mouth, and he had a plan to deal with in the battle between Feng Tianwu and the giant-like young man. The opponent was severely injured by one blow, unable to fight again, and Feng Tianwu won. Whoosh. Asterisk. A moment later, Feng Tianwu returned to Duan Ling Tian's side. Tianwu, when did you comprehend the fourth-level intermediate fire concept? Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but ask, condensing his elemental energy into sound. Perhaps. When others saw Feng Tianwu make her move, the heaven and earth phenomenon didn't form. So they couldn't precisely confirm Feng Tianwu's cultivation and concept. But Duan Ling Tian, with the memories and experiences of the reincarnation Martial Emperor from 2 lifetimes, could tell at a glance that the fire concept Feng Tianwu had just displayed was clearly a fourth-level intermediate fire concept. This filled Duan Ling Tian with shock. It was also in the illusory underground palace. In the fire checkpoint, I entered a brief state of enlightenment, and when I came to my senses, I had comprehended the fourth-level intermediate fire concept. Feng Tianwu was not surprised that Duan Ling Tian saw through the level of her fire concept. There were too many miracles and incredible things about Duan Ling Tian. She had long become numb to them. In her eyes, her brother Duan was capable of things others could not. As expected of a fire spirit body, it's so abnormal. Duan Ling Tian was somewhat speechless upon hearing this, while also filled with shock that he knew that the reason Feng Tianwu had all sorts of fortuitous encounters in the illusory underground palace was entirely because she possessed a fire spirit body. If it were someone else, they would never have such treatment. This moment, the remaining 3 token holders from the top 10 each initiated a challenge. Their named opponents conceded before even stepping onto the stage. Next, it was the number 11 token holder who initiated a challenge. The number 11 token holder was the person ranked ahead of Su Li, a young man dressed as a scholar. The number 41 token holder he challenged was heavily injured upon appearing and could no longer fight. Next, it was Su Li, the number 12 token holder, who stepped onto the stage. His opponent was injured by a single sword strike. If he hadn't timely switched the blade of his sword to the flat side, his opponent would have certainly died. Thank you for showing mercy. Su Li's opponent was convinced and stepped down gracefully. The challenges of the third round of selections continued. Not long after, it was Zhang Shou-yong and Long Yun's turn, and they each won. Soon, after one round, 25 of the 50 young talents were eliminated. They were either killed, injured, or voluntarily conceded. After one round, none of the top 10 token holders were replaced, which was enough to show that their strength and the tokens in their hands were generally commensurate. The remaining 25 young talents continued with the second round of named challenges. The number 1 token holder Duan Ling Tian once again stepped out first, after appearing. Duan Ling Tian named the number 25 token holder, a young man with a ferocious face. The young man's eyes constantly flickered with a fierce light, as if everyone was his enemy. In the central area above the fighting platform, Duan Ling Tian and this ferocious-faced young man confronted each other, and the atmosphere grew silent for a time. The silent atmosphere did not last long and was soon replaced by a burst of clamor. That Feng Tianwu from the Dahen dynasty has, to a certain extent, proven her strength. I wonder if Duan Ling Tian, who hasn't made a move from beginning to end, can also prove his strength. If he is defeated by this number 25 token holder, he will become the biggest laughingstock of this 10 dynasty martial arts meet. He's about to make his move. I'm really looking forward to it. Everyone present was very much looking forward to Duan Ling Tian's next move. Owner of token number 1, I will tear you to shreds and take your place. The young man, his face distorted, licked his dry lips with his tongue, his cold eyes fixed on Duan Ling Tian like a lurking viper. That depends on whether you have the ability, Duan Ling Tian said calmly. His expression unchanged. Duan Ling Tian had clearly seen how this young man, the owner of token number 25, had dealt with the owner of token number 26 earlier. When the other party tried to beg for mercy, he firmly clasped their throat, preventing them from making a sound. In the end, the owner of token number 26 was torn to shreds by his bare hands. His spirit weapon was a 4th-grade spirit weapon glove, which he wore on his right hand. You'll find out soon enough. The young man's cold eyes flashed, and then he moved, like a coiled viper striking, fiercely biting at Duan Ling Tian. His gloved hand suddenly reached out to grab Duan Ling Tian, and the surrounding chilling flames danced and materialized, as if forming the open mouth of a venomous snake. Above the void, nearly 70 ancient horned dragon phantoms soared towards Duan Ling Tian, showcasing his astonishing power. Void prying stage, 2nd level. 2nd level, mid-grade wind concept. 4th-grade spirit weapon. The young man, with his distorted face, unleashed all his techniques, starting with a killing move, intending to kill Duan Ling Tian. You want me dead? Duan Ling Tian's eyes filled with killing intent, and he moved, calmly and unhurriedly, to meet him in the eyes of others. It looked as if Duan Ling Tian was walking straight into his demise, just as some thought Duan Ling Tian was seeking death with this action. A sword, a 3rd-grade spirit sword, appeared in Duan Ling Tian's hand. 9 Dragon's Inch flash. Duan Ling Tian flicked the sword in his hand, and the elemental energy in his hand, infused with the 2nd level, mid-grade wind concept, transformed into a cyan gale, swirling around the sword, and then roared out, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 2 materialized divine dragons, and 1 divine dragon that couldn't fully materialize, roared out, and their appearance immediately captured everyone's attention. Dragons are mythical beasts, and no one has ever seen one in person. Of course, various dragon totems and embroideries have been passed down through the ages, such as the dragon robes worn by emperors of various dynasties, which were embroidered with golden 5-clawed divine dragons. However, divine dragons materialized from elemental energy, lifelike and vibrant, were extremely rare. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as most people's attention was on the 3 divine dragons, 2 of the fully materialized divine dragons' eyes suddenly shot out streaks of extreme inch light. 4 streaks of extreme inch light met the young man with the distorted face, moving at an astonishing speed. Puff! The first streak of extreme inch light, with destructive force, plunged into the young man's hand, which was reaching for Duan Ling Tian like a viper's mouth, piercing through the 4th-grade spirit weapon glove and leaving a bloody hole, blood splattered. Puff, 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 of the other 3 streaks of extreme inch light. One pierced through the young man's brow, another through his neck, and the last through his heart. The young man, unable to even scream, let alone grunt, completely lost his breath and was carried forward by inertia, sweeping the clouds. Duan Ling Tian moved, meeting the corpse that was still charging towards him after death, and kicked it away, sending it crashing onto the fighting platform with a boom. Above the void, The 81 ancient horned dragon phantoms formed by the power of heaven and earth gradually dissipated as Duan Ling Tian sheathed his sword. Void prying stage, second level. Second level, mid-grade wind concept. Although this Duan Ling Tian's martial art is decent, with his strength, he doesn't seem qualified to possess token number 1, does he? After witnessing Duan Ling Tian's strength, many people couldn't help but voice their doubts, questioning whether Duan Ling Tian was qualified to possess token number 1. That more people believe that token number 1 was obtained by Duan Ling Tian through a fluke that in fact, Duan Ling Tian could indeed be considered to have taken a shortcut, relying on the reincarnation Martial Emperor's lifelong inscription memories, coupled with his own spiritual power to temporarily shut down the inscription arrays along the illusionary underground palace passage. What else could that be but a shortcut? Of course, not everyone could achieve such a shortcut. I thought this Duan Ling Tian was so strong, but he's nothing special. Qin Kong, the owner of token number 4, snorted coldly, glancing at Duan Ling Tian with disdain. Since he was the first to get token number 1 and escape the illusionary underground palace, he naturally has his outstanding qualities. It seems he still has trump cards he hasn't revealed. Qi Feng, the owner of token number 3, muttered to himself after Duan Ling Tian. It was Zishang, the owner of token number 2, who took the stage. Zishang challenged the owner of token number 24. Although the opponent's strength was decent, they were still no match for him and were instantly killed by the wind blades that shot from his zither strings. Called challenges continued. The owners of the top 10 tokens continued their winning streak. Soon, it was Fun Tianwu's turn, the owner of token number 7. If following the order of the previous 6 challengers, she should have challenged the owner of token number 19. However, the owner of token number 19 was Long Yun. Out of respect for Dao Wu, Feng Tianwu did not challenge him, but instead chose the owner of token number 18. The owner of token number 18 had a cultivation of void prying stage, second level, and comprehended a second-level void prying concept, making them a formidable opponent, just as everyone thought Feng Tianwu would be in a stalemate with the opponent. The opponent was powerfully defeated by Feng Tianwu in a single exchange. This time, Feng Tianwu used a spirit weapon, a third-grade spirit whip, with just one whip. She severely injured her opponent. Asterisk. The phenomena of heaven and earth dissipated before they could fully materialize. Feng Tianwu's true strength remained a mystery to most people, except for Duan Ling Tian. To have such cultivation at only 25 years old is truly astonishing. If she can maintain this progress, give her another 10 years, and stepping into the void transformation stage is a certainty. Many people who were surprised by Feng Tianwu's strength couldn't help but exclaim. Feng Tianwu gave them a completely new understanding of female martial artists. Feng Tianwu. Yi Ling, the owner of token number 9, another female who obtained a top 10 token in the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition from the Great Qing Dynasty, looked at Feng Tianwu with complex emotions. When she was Feng Tianwu's age, she hadn't even entered the void initiation stage. Although she was unwilling to admit it, she knew that Feng Tianwu's talent and comprehension were indeed superior to hers. However, if I were to face her now, I am still fully confident. Yi Ling was full of self-confidence. Tianwu, you should have taught that kid a good lesson for me, Dao Wu said after Feng Tianwu returned, seemingly regretting that Feng Tianwu hadn't chosen to challenge Long Yun. After Feng Tianwu, it was O Chun, the owner of token number 8. From the Great Chu Dynasty. O Chun chose to challenge Long Yun, the owner of token number 19. Long Yun, a disciple of the Vice Sect Master of the Blade Sect of the Saber Sword Sect, had already touched the threshold of man and saber as one, but due to the disparity in cultivation and concept, he still lost to O Chun. Fearing Dao Wu, who was behind Long Yun, O Chun did not strike ruthlessly. After Long Yun returned, he stood dejectedly beside Dao Wu. Master, I'm sorry. I failed your high expectations and didn't even make it into the top 10. Humph. Dao Wu snorted coldly. When we return to the sect this time, I will temper you well with the Blade Sect's methods. As he spoke, a sinister smile appeared on Dao Wu's lips, causing Long Yun to shiver. Whoosh. After O Chun, It was Yi Ling, the owner of token number 9, who took the stage. Yi Ling challenged the owner of token number 17 by name and won. Next, Li Ji, the owner of token number 10, challenged the owner of token number 16 and WON.BY then. None of the top 10 token owners had been replaced. The owner of token number 11, the young man dressed as a scholar, challenged Zhang Shouyong. The owner of token number 15 by name, Brother Zhang, has encountered a formidable opponent. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed as he muttered, "As Duan Ling Tian said." Zhang Shouyong and the owner of token number 11 were evenly matched for a time, which was only because he had the third-grade spirit weapon wine gourd that Duan Ling Tian personally refined for him. The young man dressed as a scholar had astonishing strength that in the end, Zhang Shouyong narrowly defeated the opponent, taking their place and obtaining token number 11. Brother Zhang, amazing. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up, and he smiled. Soon, it was Su Li's turn, the owner of token number 12, to initiate a challenge. Challenging the owner of token number 14, Su Li made 3 sword strikes and easily won. The owner of token number 13 had a bye. What's next? At this point, only 13 people remained in the third round of selection, and many couldn't help but look up at the 2 vice fortress masters of Tsang Wolf Fortress. Now, the final stage of the third round of selection is about to begin. In this stage, the owners of tokens number 11, number 12, and number 13 will successively challenge the owners of the top 10 tokens. Once victorious, they can replace the opponent, obtain their token, and enter the top 10 of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts competition hosted by our Tsang Wolf Fortress. Ninkan said clearly. Immediately, Zhang Shouyong, Su Li, and the owner of token number 13 all brightened their eyes. First, Zhang Shouyong, the owner of token number 11, initiated the challenge. There was only one chance. If unsuccessful, they would be out of the top 10 of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts competition. Zhang Shouyong's gaze swept over Duan Ling Tian and the other 10 people, finally choosing Feng Tianwu, the owner of token number 7, among the owners of the top 10 tokens. Even Li Ji, the owner of token number 10, was at the void prying stage. Third level, only Duan Ling Tian, Zishang, and Feng Tianwu were at the void prying stage. Second level, Zhang Shouyong knew he was no match for Duan Ling Tian and Zishang, so he chose Feng Tianwu. Brother Zhang has hit a wall this time. Duan Ling Tian, who knew Feng Tianwu's true strength, couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. Tianwu. Zhang Shouyong and Feng Tianwu stood facing each other, a look of awkwardness on his face. After all, he had specifically challenged Feng Tianwu, which carried the implication of a stronger person bullying a weaker one. Brother Zhang, you don't need to hold back. Just give it your all. Zhang Shouyong was Duan Lingtian's good friend, and out of love for Duan Lingtian, Feng Tianwu also regarded Zhang Shouyong as her friend and treated him with respect. All right. Zhang Shouyong nodded, his expression becoming slightly solemn, not daring to be careless. Although he was now a void-prying stage 2 martial artist who had comprehended level 2 intermediate earth concept from the strength Feng Tianwu had displayed earlier, she was no less powerful than him. She might even be a few points stronger. Tianwu, be careful. Zhang Shouyong roared, striking like lightning. Swinging his wine gourd out, the wine gourd floated in the air, enveloped by a materialized earth concept, and descended upon Feng Tianwu's head like Mount Tai pressing down. Boom. A loud bang, earth-shattering. The terrifying air blast made the eardrums of everyone present tremble at the same time. Above Zhang Shouyong's head in the void, a heaven and earth phenomenon suddenly appeared, forming 81 ancient horned dragon phantoms, winding down. Lifelike, Zhang Shouyong's wine gourd crashed down, imbued with the power of 81 ancient horned dragons. Even if it struck a mountain, that mountain would likely be shattered. And now, the wine gourd was smashing down on Feng Tianwu's head. If it connected, even 10 Feng Tianwus might not survive. For a moment, many people couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat for Feng Tianwu. Duan Lingtian watched this scene with a smile, seemingly not worried at all. Whoosh. Facing Zhang Shouyong's descending wine gourd, Feng Tianwu's expression remained unchanged. A long whip appeared out of thin air in her hand, the grade 3 spirit whip that Duan Lingtian had refined for her. Immediately after, Feng Tianwu herself seemed to transform into a ball of flame. Soaring into the sky, she was actually charging towards the falling wine gourd. Feng Tianwu's figure moved like fire. In an instant, a layer of solidified flames wrapped around the grade 3 spirit whip in her hand. She swung it out fiercely, striking the wine gourd swish. The long whip tore through the air, like a snake's tail lashing out, containing extremely terrifying force, and landed heavily on the wine gourd. Crack. A loud sound echoed, tearing through the sky, causing air currents to ripple and the wind to howl. Immediately after, under everyone's astonished gaze, the materialized earth concept at the bottom of the wine gourd was actually shattered by a single whip, and its descent slowed somewhat. Whoosh. Feng Tianwu flicked her hand, and the grade 3 spirit whip was abruptly retracted. Swish. The next moment, the retracted grade 3 spirit whip was swung out fiercely again, like a swiftly shooting fire snake. Crack. Another loud bang. This time, the wine gourd was actually sent flying, and the materialized earth concept on its surface was completely shattered. Wow. Zhang Shouyong, who was controlling the wine gourd with his elemental energy, instantly suffered a backlash. His face turned pale, and a mouthful of congested blood shot out like a blood arrow. For Level 4 Intermediate Fire Concept. Looking at the heaven and earth phenomenon above Feng Tianwu's head, which had 20 more ancient horned dragon phantoms than his own, Zhang Shouyong retrieved his wine gourd with a bitter smile that if he had known Feng Tianwu's true strength earlier, he would never have overestimated himself by challenging her. Between him and Feng Tianwu, their cultivation was similar, and their spirit weapons were similar. He had originally thought their concepts were also similar, which was why he had specifically challenged Feng Tianwu. He never expected that Feng Tianwu's concept was not only vastly different from his, but even stronger by the power of 20 ancient horned dragons. This gap was like a chasm, difficult to cross. I concede. Zhang Shouyong opened his mouth, saying with some bitterness, "Brother Zhang, thank you for the concession." Feng Tianwu smiled slightly, then returned to Duan Lingtian's side. When Feng Tianwu made her move earlier, the heaven and earth phenomenon didn't even have time to fully form. This time, the heaven and earth phenomenon finally took shape, but I never expected her to have comprehended Level 4 Intermediate Fire Concept. At only 25 years old, with a void-prying Stage 2 cultivation and comprehending Level 4 Intermediate Fire Concept, this Feng Tianwu is simply a monstrous talent. In the history of the 10 dynasties, has there ever been such a monstrous talent like her? Let alone the 10 dynasties, a monstrous talent like her is extremely rare even in the outer realm. It's fortunate she was born in the Great Han Dynasty. If she had been born in the outer realm, who knows how terrifying she would be. For a time, the entire arena was in an uproar, and Feng Tianwu became the focus of everyone's attention. Such talent, such comprehension, could be called heaven-defying. She actually comprehended Level 4 fire concept. Yiling's pupils contracted. Now, even she wouldn't dare to say she could 100% defeat Feng Tianwu. When did you comprehend Level 4 Intermediate Fire Concept? After Feng Tianwu returned, Feng Wudao looked at her, his expression dazed, and Jian Shisan and Dao Wu, who were beside him, were not much better. Although they had long known that Feng Tianwu was a fire spirit body, and besides her astonishing martial arts talent, she also had a unique understanding of fire concept, but they never expected that Feng Tianwu had actually comprehended Level 4 Intermediate Fire Concept. This comprehension had already far surpassed her talent. I comprehended it yesterday, in the illusory underground palace. Feng Tianwu said, "Kid Lingtian, you knew already?" Feng Wudao noticed that Duan Lingtian had been calm the entire time, and vaguely realized this. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. Seeing this, Feng Wudao sighed. They say daughters are outward-looking. It seems to be true. She hasn't even married yet. If she does, I, as her father, will probably be even more redundant. Dad, what are you saying? Brother Duan figured it out himself. It's not like I told him. Feng Tianwu was somewhat speechless, while a blush spread across her pretty face, like a shy flower bud about to bloom. Continue. Ning Can's voice descended from the sky, shifting everyone's attention from Feng Tianwu, Zhang Shouyong. Challenge failed. Now, only Su Li, the owner of token number 12, and the owner of token number 13 remained. If they succeeded in their challenges, they would be able to rank among the top 10 of the 10 dynasties martial arts. Su Li flew out, his gaze immediately locking onto the owner of token number 10, the 11th prince of the great Tang dynasty. Li Ji, I challenge the owner of token number 10. Su Li issued his challenge. Immediately, Li Ji also flew out, confronting Su Li, his face showing disdain. You, a mere void-prying stage 2 martial artist, are no match for me. Whether I'm your match or not, we'll know after we try, Su Li said calmly, a grade 3 spirit sword appearing out of thin air in his hand, from which an incomparably sharp aura rose. It was this sword concept. Void prying stage 2. Comprehending level 2 intermediate sword concept. Your strength is not bad. It's just a pity that my cultivation is a level higher than yours, destined to be superior to you, Li Ji said, narrowing his eyes. In his words, he had a thorough understanding of Su Li's strength. However, soon, his narrowed eyes suddenly widened, his face showing disbelief, as if he had seen something that greatly surprised him. At this moment, above Su Li's head in the void, 40 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared out of thin air. This was the power contained within Su Li's sword concept when he did not use his elemental energy. Level 3 intermediate sword concept. Did you just comprehend it? Li Ji gasped, asking in surprise. Make your move. Su Li spoke indifferently. The 3-foot green blade in his hand trembled. An elemental energy poured into it. In an instant, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the void changed again. Beside the 40 ancient horned dragon phantoms, 30 more ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared out of thin air, followed by 20 more ancient horned dragon phantoms. 90 ancient horned dragon phantoms, poised and ready, prepared to fight alongside Su Li at any moment. Humph. Do you think this makes you my match? Li Ji sneered, letting out a cold snort. Even if my concept is inferior to yours, my cultivation is a level higher than yours. And with the amplification of a grade 3 spirit weapon, my power is still far superior to yours. As soon as his words fell, a 7-foot-long spear appeared in Li Ji's hand. Elemental energy surged on the spear, then transformed into a materialized earth concept. Whoosh. Above the void, a heaven and earth phenomenon suddenly appeared. First, 30 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, then 40 more ancient horned dragon phantoms, followed by 27 more ancient horned dragon phantoms. Lig. With a void-prying stage 3 cultivation, comprehending level 2 intermediate earth concept, wielding a grade 3 spirit spear, unleashed all his power, comparable to the strength of 97 ancient horned dragons. Compared to Su Li, he had the power of 7 more ancient horned dragons, and all of this did not stop there. As a faint wisp of green energy appeared on the 7-foot-long spear in Li Ji's hand, 3 more ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared above his head. Level 3 low-grade wind concept. The strongest power Li Ji now commanded was comparable to the strength of 100 ancient horned dragons. I will let you know that the difference of 10 ancient horned dragon powers is enough for me to completely crush you. Li Ji let out a soft cry, and his entire body flew out. The 7-foot-long spear in his hand shot through the air, like a flood dragon emerging from its cave, with a fierce momentum, stirring up bursts of piercing air blasts. Swish. Where the spear pointed, it was earth-shattering. When this spear shot out, even the sky seemed as if it could be pierced through, let alone a human body of flesh and blood. The power of 100 ancient horned dragons? Is that very strong? Su Li met him unhurriedly, gripping his sword with both hands, and abruptly raised it above his head. In an instant, elemental energy surged from Su Li's body, enveloping both him and his sword, as if transforming into a giant sword poised for attack. After the giant sword appeared, its milky white elemental energy exterior suddenly underwent a drastic change. In the blink of an eye, it turned into rippling blue waves, constantly undulating. Materialized water concept. This Su Li, he's been holding back all this time. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened, a look of surprise on his face. Whoosh. And almost at the same time, the azure giant sword formed by Su Li, man and sword combined, shot across the sky, piercing towards Li Ji. At this moment, above the void, the natural phenomena underwent a drastic change. Beside the 90 ancient horned dragon phantoms, another 20 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, lifelike and majestic at a first level. Mid-grade water concept. The giant sword streaked across the sky, imbued with the power of 110 ancient horned dragons. The power of 100 ancient horned dragons? Is that very strong? At this moment, not only did Li Ji, the person involved, turn pale, but Su Li's words from earlier echoed in his ears. Even the onlookers couldn't help but recall Su Li's words. No one had expected that Su Li had been holding back at first. His strongest power could rival that of 110 ancient horned dragons, in front of the power of 110 ancient horned dragons. The power of 100 ancient horned dragons indeed didn't amount to much. Man and sword became one. The giant sword fiercely collided with the 7-foot-long spear in Li Ji's hand. The spear trembled, and the webbing between Li Ji's thumb and forefinger split open, blood spattering as his face went completely pale. Wah! Li Ji opened his mouth with difficulty, spitting out a dazzling mouthful of dark blood. And just as he spat out this mouthful of blood, the giant sword once again swept across, attacking. Boom! With one strike, the long spear in Li Ji's hand was knocked away, and a terrifying force landed on his body, sending him flying like an arrow released from a bow. Looking utterly disheveled, when he finally stood firm again, his body was swaying precariously, with no strength left to fight. You won. Li Ji, his face devoid of color, coughed several times, each cough expelling a mouthful of dark blood, clearly indicating he had sustained serious injuries. Lig stared at the giant sword hovering in the distance. Its turquoise surface and the sharp aura it emitted put immense pressure on him. He knew in his heart that his opponent had held back just now. If the opponent hadn't withdrawn his power in time, he would have been killed by that giant sword sweeping across the sky. Whoosh! After Li Ji conceded, the giant sword, which was entirely formed by the materialized water concept combined with elemental energy and sword concept, disappeared, revealing Su Li's proud figure. Mastering 2 mid-grade concepts. This owner of token number 12 seems to also be from the Daihan dynasty. Among the top 10, one person has been replaced, and the one who replaced him is from the Daihan dynasty. From now on, among the top 10, people from the Daihan dynasty occupy 4 seats. This Daihan dynasty is going to defy the heavens. Many people sighed while involuntarily gasping in cold air. The 10 Dynasty Martial Arts. Meet was originally a stage for the young talents of the 10 great dynasties, but now, among the top 10 seats, the Daihan dynasty alone occupied 4, even if the remaining owner of token number 13 successfully challenged any young talent from the Daihan dynasty. The Daihan dynasty would still have 3 people in the top 10 seats of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts meet. This guy Su Li really hides his strength well. Duan Lingtian shook his head lightly. It was his first time seeing Su Li use the water concept, and it was even the void transformation concept. Although it wasn't as good as his sword concept, it wasn't far off. There's one thing I'm very curious about. Suddenly, Li Ji, who had just taken a pill and whose injuries had somewhat eased, looked at Su Li, took a deep breath, and asked, "Since your full power can rival that of 110 ancient horned dragons, why did you take so long to come out of the illusory underground palace and only get token number 12? What Li Ji asked was also what most people, including Duan Lingtian, wanted to ask. For a moment, they all looked at Su Li curiously, wanting to know how he would answer. I wanted to see what number token I could get without using the water concept. Su Li replied indifferently, then flew away, returning to Jian Shisan's side in a moment. Standing there quietly. Su Li's reply made Li Ji's mouth twitch involuntarily. If it were anyone else, in that illusory underground palace, they would have probably used all their means long ago. But this Su Li actually still held back. Woeful. For a moment, The same thought popped into the minds of most people present that Su Li's action could indeed be called willful, but he had the capital to be willful. Ha ha. After a brief moment of stunned silence, the Dahan Dynasty Emperor burst into hearty laughter. His laughter unrestrained and bold. 10 young talents from his Dahan dynasty came here, and 4 made it into the top 10 of the 10 dynasty martial arts meet. As the emperor of the Dahan dynasty, he felt proud of this. Number 13. Ningkin glanced indifferently at the owner of token number 13, thought immediately. The owner of token number 13 flew out. The owner of token number 13, who had been lucky enough to get a bye in the previous round, was a stoic young man in plain clothes, with a pair of unremarkable eyes that occasionally flashed with a sharp gleam. Owner of token number 1. After the plain-clothed young man appeared, his target was directly Duan Ling Tian. Clearly, like most people, he questioned the gold content of the number 1 token in Duan Ling Tian's hand, being challenged by name. Duan Ling Tian was surprised, but not unexpected. He simply flew out and faced the plain-clothed young man. The plain-clothed young man raised his hand. A sword appeared in his hand, a crimson sword. A third-grade spirit sword. With just one glance, Duan Ling Tian recognized that the sword in the plain-clothed young man's hand was a third-grade spirit sword. Like Su Li, the plain-clothed young man was a sword cultivator. Kill? The plain-clothed young man attacked without any warning, taking the initiative. His entire being seemed to transform into a sharp arrow, shot from a strong bow, locking onto Duan Ling Tian. Whoosh. The coldness of the sword coming from the west seemed to wither everything, sweeping away all obstacles. Extreme cold withered sword. As soon as the plain-clothed young man attacked, Duan Ling Tian's pupils involuntarily contracted, not for any other reason, but because of the sword skill the plain-clothed young man was using. The extreme cold withered sword is a low-grade heaven-rank sword skill. Once cultivated, it can cause the sharp sword concept to generate extreme cold. Cold that is like ice, but not ice. When the sword is unleashed, all things wither. Hence its name. This set of sword skills was precisely the first heaven-rank martial skill that the Reincarnation Martial Emperor encountered in his first life. When the Reincarnation Martial Emperor was young, he once used this sword skill to become the number 1 among the younger generation in a certain region outside the domain. Although he rarely used this set of sword skills later, the Reincarnation Martial Emperor never forgot this set of sword skills, which held extraordinary significance for him. The plain-clothed young man attacked. 90 ancient horned dragon phantoms and thousands of ancient giant elephant phantoms also surged forward, causing the air currents to churn and stirring up gusts of wind that made the robes of the people above the arena flutter. However, at this moment, no one paid attention to this detail, except for the group of people who knew Duan Ling Tian's background. The rest of them stared intently at the plain-clothed young man. They were all curious whether the plain-clothed young man could truly defeat Duan Ling Tian, replace him, and seize token number 1. Perhaps I can try. Facing the plain-clothed young man's attack, Duan Ling Tian murmured to himself, making a bold decision. The next moment, a sword, a third-grade spirit sword, appeared out of thin air in Duan Ling Tian's hand. Then let's see which is stronger. The extreme cold withered sword propelled by the sword concept that generates cold air, or the extreme cold withered sword propelled by the wind concept. Duan Ling Tian whispered, his gaze suddenly becoming sharp, directly piercing the plain-clothed young man. Whoosh. Duan Ling Tian moved, shaking the sword in his hand, striking instantly, meeting the sword in the plain-clothed young man's hand, which exuded a cold and withering aura. Extreme cold withered sword. The same sword skill, effortlessly wielded by Duan Ling Tian. Anyone with discerning eyes could easily see that the sword skill Duan Ling Tian was now demonstrating was even stronger than the one the plain-clothed young man was using. He surpassed the plain-clothed young man in terms of realm. The plain-clothed young man's sword, with its sword concept, exuded an icy coldness, imbued with a rich sense of desolation, as if it could wither all things. Duan Ling Tian's sword, with its wind concept, was even colder. and its sense of desolation completely crushed the desolation contained in the plain-clothed young man's sword. As Duan Ling Tian unleashed his sword, 91 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared above the void, surging forth with it. The power of Duan Ling Tian's sword was only several thousand ancient giant elephants' worth of power stronger than the power of the plain-clothed young man's sword. This small difference in power was almost negligible. However, when Duan Ling Tian's sword, with the icy coldness and withered intent contained within its wind concept, met the plain-clothed young man's sword, it easily crushed it. A complete and utter crushing. With just one sword strike, the plain-clothed young man's sword was sent flying, and he himself was blasted away by a huge force. At the same time, his sword-wielding hand underwent a drastic change. His young and strong hand began to wither, as if it instantly transformed into the hand of an old man with one foot in the grave, ancient and decrepit. The withered hand was permeated with wisps of withering aura, and this aura was still constantly creeping up his arm. In a moment, half of the plain-clothed young man's arm was entangled by the withering aura, as if it had turned into withered wood. If this continued, it would only take a moment for his entire arm to be rendered useless, and it might even spread throughout his body, turning him into a withered piece of wood with no life force. Whoosh! Just as the plain-clothed young man gritted his teeth, in a fierce internal struggle, hesitating whether he should discard this hand, a fleeting sword cry swept over, causing the plain-clothed young man's face to change drastically. The sword light flashed, and the plain-clothed young man's completely withered half-arm, which resembled rotten wood, was severed. The one who struck the sword was precisely Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian made the decision for the plain-clothed young man. Thank you. A bitter smile appeared on the plain-clothed young man's lips. Although the person in front of him had defeated him and even severed half of his arm, he not only felt no resentment, but was grateful to the other party that he knew that, had it not been for the other party's decisive action, his entire arm would have been crippled. Your extreme cold withered sword is well practiced. It won't be long before you break through to the grand completion stage. Duan Ling Tian stood there, speaking slowly, with the air of one who could command the world. I want to know, has your extreme cold withered sword already reached grand completion? The plain-clothed young man took a deep breath and asked. No. Duan Ling Tian shook his head, just as the plain-clothed young man was stunned. Duan Ling Tian had already flown away, and at the same time, a clear voice had already entered his ears. What I just displayed was the extreme cold withered sword at the consummation stage. Perfected stage? The white-robed youth's pupils constricted, his face a mask of disbelief. Even the senior who taught him the extreme cold desolation sword had only cultivated it to the major accomplishment stage, and this young man, barely 28 years old, claimed to have cultivated the extreme cold desolation sword to the perfected stage. The sword strikes, and the desolation intent, like a destructive force, merges into the sword in my hand, then instantly, like a parasitic bone, pierces into my hand. Perhaps he truly has cultivated the extreme cold desolation sword to the perfected stage. Taking a deep breath, the white-robed youth retreated. Above the dueling arena, the onlookers erupted in an uproar. The extreme cold desolation sword. I've heard of it. It's an extremely terrifying heaven-rank low-grade sword skill. Once swept by its unique, desolate aura, one's entire life force will wither, and they will turn into a withered tree. That Duan Ling Tian actually cultivated the extreme cold desolation sword to the perfected stage. It's truly incredible. Indeed, for a heaven-rank martial skill, even a heaven-rank low-grade one, cultivating it to the perfected stage without decades of hard work is almost impossible. Duan Ling Tian's martial skill aptitude is simply heaven-defying. Everyone marveled, shocked by Duan Ling Tian's mastery of the extreme cold desolation sword. Only Duan Ling Tian knew that the reason he could unleash the perfected stage of the extreme cold desolation sword was because the reincarnation Martial Emperor, through 2 lifetimes, had diligently studied this sword skill. Because of this, Duan Ling Tian who had integrated the reincarnation martial emperor's memories from both lives, could execute the extreme cold desolation sword with effortless ease that if it were another martial skill, Duan Ling Tian might not have been able to achieve this. Brother Duan, you actually know the same sword skill as him. After Duan Ling Tian returned, Feng Tian Wu said in surprise, Duan Ling Tian, how long have you been cultivating this sword skill? Jian Shisan asked with a solemn expression, his eyes sparkling as if the person before him was no longer just a person, but a rare treasure. Master, before Duan Ling Tian could speak, Su Li had already interjected. A year ago, Duan Ling Tian had not yet comprehended the void interpretation intent. Heaven rank martial skills require the void interpretation intent to be successfully executed. This was an ironclad rule passed down through the ages on the Cloud Sky continent. Less than a year, and he cultivated a heaven-rank sword skill to the perfected stage? Dao Wu gasped, looking at Duan Ling Tian as if he were a monster, not just him. Even Feng Wu Dao and Long Yun, who had always been at odds with Duan Ling Tian, looked at him with similar expressions. This comprehension could no longer be described as monstrous. It was simply abnormal, a deviant who defied all common sense. You are truly a born sword cultivator. Jian Shisan sighed. Dao Wu's eyes turned completely red upon hearing Jian Shisan's words. Although he had long known that even if Duan Ling Tian joined their blade and sword sect, he would ultimately enter the sword sect. But now, having witnessed Duan Ling Tian's comprehension, he couldn't help but feel jealous. Compared to Duan Ling Tian, all other so-called geniuses were simply trash. Look at Duan Ling Tian, then look at his own disciples. Slap. The more Dao Wu thought about it, the more annoyed he became. He raised his hand and slapped Long Yun on the back of his head, grumbling, useless. You're useless. Long Yun cowered to the side, feeling wronged. Who did I offend? I just stood here quietly and still got hit. Seeing Dao Wu's actions, Duan Ling Tian and the others couldn't help but chuckle. The third round of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition selection has concluded. Tomorrow, at the same time, the fourth round of selection, which is also the final selection, will take place. At that time, the specific rankings of the top 10 of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition will be decided. Ningkan withdrew his cold gaze from Duan Ling Tian, then scanned the surroundings and announced loudly as soon as he finished speaking. He left with Zishang. Feng Wei followed closely with Lu Yong for the others. After taking a few more glances at Duan Ling Tian, they dispersed. These 2 days, the most eye-catching person in the entire arena was undoubtedly Duan Ling Tian. First, he obtained the number 1 token in the second round of selection, and then he displayed an aptitude in martial arts that was astounding to everyone. Duan Ling Tian was unconcerned about being the focus of everyone's discussion, as if he had long been accustomed to it. The next day arrived as scheduled. Early in the morning, the representatives and young talents from the 10 major dynasties, including Duan Ling Tian, arrived above the dueling arena of Kangwolf Fort's outer fort, waiting for the 2 deputy fort masters of Kangwolf Fort to appear. Whoosh. Whoosh. A moment later, Ning Kan and Feng Wei, the 2 deputy fort masters of Kangwolf Fort, appeared, with Zishang and Lu Yong following closely behind them, arriving above the dueling arena. Today, we will hold the 4th round of selection for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition, which is also the final round. Ning can scan the surroundings and announced loudly, the young talents, who rank among the top 10 of the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition, will receive different rewards from our Kangwolf Fort, according to their ranking. Therefore, I hope the 10 young talents will give their all. Ningkan added, immediately. The eyes of the 10 young talents, including Duan Ling Tian, lit up. Kangwolf Fort's rewards were likely not ordinary items. After the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition concludes today, the representatives of the 10 major dynasties present will also receive rewards from our Kangwolf Fort. Of course, the rewards will vary. Ningkan continued, upon hearing this, many dynasty representatives looked forward with anticipation, especially the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, whose eyes narrowed with a smile. The Great Han Dynasty had 4 participants in the top 10 of this 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition. So he believed his great Han dynasty's rewards would be the most generous among the 10 major dynasties. The rules for the fourth round of selection are still that the holder of the number 1 token initiates the challenge first. The holder of the number 1 token can challenge anyone starting from the holder of the number 2 token. The holder of the number 2 token, besides not being able to challenge the holder of the number 1 token, can challenge anyone starting from the holder of the number 3 token, and so on. The holder of the number 10 token has no choice but to be chosen. Once a named challenge fails, the challenger will be replaced by their opponent, and their tokens will be swapped. This continues until no one responds to a challenge, and the specific rankings of the top 10 are determined according to the token numbers. Ninken slowly said. Additionally, anyone who has already fought in a previous match, if challenged by someone appearing in a later match, can refuse on the grounds of needing rest. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow, looked at the number 1 token in his hand, and a brilliant smile appeared on his face that it seemed that this number 1 token also had great use in this fourth round. Holding the number 1 token, no one could challenge him. He could only challenge others by name. Of course. Duan Ling Tian also understood that if he wanted to win the first place in this 10 dynasty martial arts competition, he had to keep this number 1 token in his hand. In other words, he could only challenge the other 9 people and win 9 consecutive matches to achieve first place in the 10 dynasty martial arts competition. Is there anything unclear? Ning can scan the surroundings, his gaze sharpening, and asked in a deep voice. The young talents all shook their heads. Now, besides Duan Ling Tian and the other 10 young talents who had qualified for the fourth round of selection in the 10 dynasty martial arts competition, the young talents who were eliminated yesterday and survived were also present. However, today they had no opportunity to participate, only to act as spectators, witnessing the clash between the 10 young talents holding tokens number 1 to number 10. Since that's the case, I declare. Ninken was about to announce the start of the fourth round of selection for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts competition when suddenly, as if he discovered something, his voice abruptly stopped. Immediately after, he sharply looked up at the sky, his eyes slightly cold, and he shouted, "Who's there? How dare you trespass into my Kangwolf fort?" As Ninken looked up, Fengwei also looked up, his gaze cold as he stared at the sky. And even before Ninken looked up, Duan Ling Tian noticed that Jian Shisan and Dao Wu had already looked up at the sky, so he followed suit. Ba, Deputy Fort Master Ning, this humble monk apologizes for the intrusion. Just as everyone above the dueling arena looked up at the sky, from behind the clouds at the horizon, a bald middle-aged man wearing a large red kasaya suddenly emerged. On top of the bald middle-aged man's head were 6 tonsure marks. This is a monk. Looking at the bald middle-aged man before him, Duan Ling Tian was stunned. He was too familiar with the image of this bald middle-aged man. Weren't the monks who practiced vegetarianism and chanted scriptures on earth in his previous life shaped like this? At this moment, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity, for no other reason than the monk who appeared before him. So, there are also monks in this world. Oh, right. When that senior saved me from Fengwei and Dongwei earlier, he seemed to have mentioned something about bald donkeys to Fengwei. Could he have been talking about monks? For a moment, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but recall the scenes from when Fengwei and Dongwei came to find him that day. He remembered Jian Shisan's words to Fengwei clearly. As far as I know, besides our blade and sword sect, those bald donkeys also know. These were Jian Shisan's exact words at the time. That moment. Duan Ling Tian never connected the bald donkeys in Jian Shisan's words with monks. Of course, this was due to his preconceived notions. If someone had mentioned bald donkeys to him on Earth in his previous life, his first thought would have been monks, but in this life on the Cloud Sky continent. Before this, he had not only never seen a monk, but had never even heard of the existence of monks. This moment. Looking at the bald middle-aged man in the kasaya, Duan Ling Tian finally realized that there were indeed monks in this world, and not just ordinary monks. Hui Ming, you bald donkey, you've really chosen your time to arrive. Aren't you going to let those 2 bald donkeys behind you show themselves? Jian Shisan looked at the middle-aged monk who had just emerged from behind the clouds and said indifferently, Deputy Sect Master Jian. This humble monk offers his greetings. Despite being called a bald donkey by Jian Shisan, Hui Ming did not get angry. He put his palms together in a respectful bow, then moved his body and descended from the sky at the same time. Behind him, another middle-aged monk and a young monk appeared, following closely behind. Immediately, the three monks became the focus of everyone's attention. Who are they? Their clothes are really strange. http://www.vatu.com. I've never seen people like this before. Not only are they bald, but they also have so many scars on their foreheads. They must be incredibly bored. They call themselves this poor monk. And what does amidst mean? Representatives from various dynasties and talented young individuals discussed animatedly. They had never seen people dressed like this. Of course. A few dynasty representatives frowned, then seemed to recall something, and whispered aloud. I heard that in the outer domain, there are some powerful sects where everyone is bald and has ring scars on their heads. They abstain from sex and meat, focusing solely on martial arts, and their martial prowess is profound. Right? I've heard that too. It's said that ordinary people in the outer domain call them holy monks, but martial artists in the outer domain generally refer to them as monks. I never thought monks actually existed. I wonder if they truly abstain from sex and meat. The thought of a life without the joys of men and women, without large fish and meat, makes me uncomfortable. The voices of a few dynasty representatives clearly reached the ears of others. Monks? Abstain from sex and meat? Aside from Duan Tian, the other representatives and talented young individuals from the 10 dynasties were stunned. There are actually people like that, abstaining from sex and meat, focusing solely on martial arts. If they don't become powerhouses, there truly is no justice. I wouldn't want to be a powerhouse like that. Everyone has their own aspirations, and their thoughts naturally differ. For a time, due to the arrival of the three monks, the scene became a buzz of activity. Looking at the three monks, Duan Tian couldn't suppress his curiosity. His spiritual energy swept out, first touching the young monk because he was the weakest. The young monk was about 35 years old, with a delicate appearance and calm eyes. He seemed ancient and world-weary, as if he had already seen through the mortal world. Void Prying Stage 6th Level. After detecting the young monk's cultivation, Duan Tian's pupils involuntarily constricted. He never expected that this monk, who was similar in age to most of the talented young people from the 10 dynasties present, was actually a Void Prying Stage 6th level existence. This was truly incredible. Where did these monks come from? If a young monk is this strong, then these two middle-aged monks must be. Before Duan Tian could finish his thought, his spiritual energy, which was sweeping towards the leading middle-aged monk, Hui Ming, suddenly paused, then seemed to sink into the sea, disappearing without a trace. Young benefactor, to possess such spiritual energy attainment at such a young age is truly surprising. At the same time, a voice entered Duan Tian's ears. It was Hui Ming's voice. Duan Tian couldn't help but take a deep breath. His eyes filled with apprehension that he knew that this Hui Ming was likely a powerhouse on the same level as Ning, Kan, and Jian Shisan, an existence above the Void Transformation Stage 7th level. Moreover, behind Hui Ming, there must also be a colossal force that could stand on equal footing with the Azure Wolf Fort and the Saber Sword Sect. After giving Duan Tian a friendly glance, Hui Ming looked at Dao Wu. Deputy Sect Master Dao, it's been a long time. How have you been lately? Naturally, I'm doing well, unlike you, bald donkey. Dao Wu snorted, seemingly not fond of Hui Ming. Hui Ming didn't get angry. He then looked at Feng Wei and greeted him. Deputy Fort Master Feng, this poor monk offers his respects. Hui Ming, Hui Jing, take that little bald donkey and leave quickly. Our Azure Wolf Fort does not welcome you, Feng Wei said in a deep voice. At the same time, he looked at Jian Shisan in the distance, seemingly reminding Jian Shisan of something. Hui Ming, you bald donkey, your intentions are clear to us. But our Saber Sword Sect and Azure Wolf Fort have already reached an agreement. Your Cloud Sky Temple probably won't be able to get a share of this. Jian Shisan looked at Hui Ming and said slowly. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable tone. Deputy Sect Master Jian, Since this poor monk has appeared, I naturally have the confidence to intervene. Huiming smiled faintly, a hint of confidence subtly mixed into his unruffled face. Upon hearing Huiming's words, the faces of Deputy Fort Masters Ning, Kan, and Feng Wei of the Azure Wolf Fort, as well as Jian Shisan and Dao Wu of the Sabersword sect, instantly changed color at the same time. They all looked up towards the sky. Since you're here, why hide? Ning Kan said in a booming voice, and almost as soon as Ning Kan's voice fell from behind the clouds at the horizon, a middle-aged man dressed in plain clothes swept out and appeared before everyone. The middle-aged man had an ordinary appearance, but a subtle aura that kept people at a distance emanated from him, clearly indicating that he cultivated a special technique. The middle-aged man's face was calm, neither happy nor angry, and his eyes were dull, making him appear even more devoid of desires than the three monks. Payan, seeing this plain-clothed middle-aged man, Ning Kan and Feng Wei's expressions darkened. Even Jian Shisan and Dao Wu's faces were not looking good, clearly not expecting this person to come. Whoosh. The middle-aged man moved, gracefully descending from the sky, and from behind the clouds, another person appeared, a young man with a calm face, also dressed in plain clothes. The young man followed closely behind the middle-aged man, descending together. It's him. As soon as the young man appeared, Duan Ling Tian's pupils couldn't help but constrict, his face filled with shock that he knew this young man, and he had even interacted with him. However, he never expected the other party to appear here. It wasn't just Duan Ling Tian who was inexplicably shocked. Even Zishang and Long Yun were now looking horrified, as if they had seen a ghost. How could he be here? The same thought arose in both their minds. Duan Ling Tian, isn't he Flame Young Master, one of the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? At some point, Suli stood beside Duan Ling Tian and asked with some hesitation. Suli remembered clearly, back then, when he participated in the talent competition of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he had seen this plain-clothed young man descending from the sky. The other party seemed to be Flame Young Master among the 5 great young masters of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. His name seemed to be Zhang Yan. Flame Young Master, Zhang Yan. He also remembered that during that talent competition, because of his arrival, Zhang Yan was eliminated and failed to go to the Blackstone Empire to participate in the Imperial Young Talent Competition for the 5 spots. Shouldn't this Zhang Yan be in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, living an ordinary life? How could he appear here? Moreover, he was following a powerhouse whom even his master seemed to be wary of. Someone who could make his master wary was undoubtedly a formidable powerhouse even in the outer domain. Sectmaster Peg, Huiming and Huijing clasped their hands together, looked at the plain-clothed middle-aged man, and bowed slightly. Sectmaster, hearing the 2 monks' words, Jian Shisan, Ning Kan, Dao Wu, and Feng Wei were greatly surprised. Clearly, they all hadn't expected the plain-clothed middle-aged man before them to have already become the sect master of that sect. They clearly understood what this meant. Payan Yu, have you entered that realm? Dao Wu gasped, and although he had some suspicions in his heart, he still couldn't help but ask. Payan looked at Huiming and Huijing, nodded faintly, then looked at Dao Wu and spoke slowly, his voice calm and hollow. Dao Wu, in these past few years, you don't seem to have made much progress. Dao Wu's face flushed with anger, but he was speechless. If it were anyone else, he would have already attacked with his saber. But the plain-clothed middle-aged man before him was beyond his ability to contend with as people from the same era. The aura surrounding the other party even surpassed that of his junior brother. Jian Shisan, in their era, was considered the #1 person in the Sabersword sect. Who are you? How dare you insult my master? Dao Wu didn't react, but Long Yun was furious. He stepped forward, glaring at Pei and in his heart. His master was not to be blasphemed by anyone. Slap. A crisp slap echoed. Long Yun's head tilted, and a stinging palm print appeared on his face at the same time. A plain-clothed young man appeared in front of Long Yun, looking at him expressionlessly. The one who had just slapped Long Yun was none other than this person. Zhang Yan, you're courting death. Long Yun was stunned by the slap. When he reacted, his face turned ferocious, and he raised his hand, unleashing a saber strike towards the person in front of him, as if to cleave the other party in half. Whoosh! Long Yun attacked in a rage, using his full power. His void-prying stage, second-level cultivation, and first-level saber concept were fully displayed, combined with a grade 3 spirit saber, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth to manifest the strength of 70 ancient horned dragons, facing a saber strike containing the power of 70 ancient horned dragons. Zhang Yan remained expressionless, as if he hadn't even seen it, just as many people thought Zhang Yan was about to be cleaved in half by Long Yun's saber. Clang! A loud clang rang out, plunging the scene into a dead silence. Under everyone's gaze, Long Yun's full-power saber strike, containing the strength of 70 ancient horned dragons, was actually caught bare-handed by that plain-clothed young man. Moreover, he only used 2 fingers, his thumb and index finger. The 2 fingers, enveloped in a materialized water concept, pinched the blade, stopping Long Yun's enraged attack. Long Yun roared, wanting to pull back the grade 3 spirit saber in his hand, but he found Zhang Yan's hand to be like an iron clamp, making it impossible for him to withdraw the saber. How is this possible? For a moment, Long Yun's pupils constricted, his face filled with shock, looking incredulously at Zhang Yan, who was staring at him expressionlessly. How could you possess such powerful strength? At this moment, it wasn't just Long Yun who was horrified. Duan Ling Tian, Zishang, and Su Li, anyone who knew Zhang Yan's past, were all utterly shocked by the strength Zhang Yan was now displaying. It's only been a few years. How could this Zhang Yan possess such formidable strength? Looking at the 150 ancient horned dragon phantoms constantly dancing above Zhang Yan's head, Duan Ling Tian felt his heart race terrifyingly fast, as his spiritual energy extended. He detected Zhang Yan's current cultivation. Void prying stage 6th level. Duan Ling Tian's face changed slightly. He never expected that in just a few short years, Zhang Yan had actually gained such powerful cultivation, the strength of 150 ancient horned dragons. Void prying stage 6th level cultivation accounted 480 of them. This meant that Zhang Yan had also comprehended 6th level mid-grade water concept. Duan Ling Tian's memories of Zhang Yan still lingered from several years ago. At that time, in the imperial city of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Zhang Yan had once fought him because of Zishang's younger sister, Ziyan. Later, because Ziyan harbored some resentment towards him, they had some conflicts. Of course, they were all minor, insignificant conflicts. At that time, Zhang Yan's strength was far inferior to his. He hadn't even secured one of the 5 final spots in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Genius Competition, which led to the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition. He never expected that such a person, someone who had been eliminated from the Genius Competition in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom back then, would reappear with such terrifying strength. Zhang Yan's current strength had completely surpassed his. Even if he used all his techniques, including the soul skill 1000 illusions, he would still not be Zhang Yan's match. What exactly did this Zhang Yan encounter to become so strong? In the distance, Zishang stared at Zhang Yan, his face also filled with confusion, with the strength Zhang Yan was currently displaying. Even if he allowed Old Ghost's remnant soul to possess him, he would likely only be able to fight Zhang Yan to a draw, unless he could break through to the void prying stage, 3rd level, at which point he would be able to easily defeat Zhang Yan. Because by then, after Old Ghost possessed him, he would possess the strength of the void prying stage, 7th level. In his opinion, at that time, it would be equivalent to him being a void prying stage, 7th level martial artist. And defeating Zhang Yan would be no difficult task. This Zhang Yan is completely like a different person from when I first met him. Su Li took a deep breath, feeling immensely shocked by Zhang Yan's current strength. For the sake of us both being from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, I won't kill you. Zhang Yan flicked his 2 fingers, easily shaking off Long Yun's grade 3 spirit saber. Then, his figure moved, and he was already back behind the middle-aged man in plain clothes, standing there silently. Payan, is this your disciple? What excellent upbringing. Dao Wu's face darkened. How could he not be angry when his own disciple was being lectured right in front of him? Dao Wu, it's better for the young people to resolve their own matters. Or perhaps you want to stand up for your disciple and deal with mine. Pei said indifferently. You, Dao Wu, shouldn't have fallen so low, should you? Dao Wu was momentarily speechless upon hearing this, unable to retort. He could only glare at Long Yun with a look of disappointment, which made the bitterness on Long Yun's face intensify. Hui Ming, you're ruthless. Ning Kan glared at Hui Ming with resentment. He never expected that Hui Ming seemed to have known all along that the Saber Sword sect would side with him, and had even brought helpers to AT this point. Even if his Azure Wolf Fortress and the Saber Sword sect joined forces, they wouldn't be able to drive them away. Another emotion-severing sect to share the spoils. Jian Shi shook his head, then seemed to remember something and murmured to himself, but it doesn't matter anymore. With the three of them, it's enough. As he finished his soliloquy, Jian Shi looked at Duan Ling Tian, Feng Tian Wu, and Zhang Shouyong, growing more and more satisfied with each glance, standing to the side. Duan Ling Tian was filled with confusion. First came 3 monks. Then came a middle-aged man in plain clothes, who also brought Zhang Yan. Moreover, this middle-aged man in plain clothes seemed to be the sect master of a sect, and also Zhang Yan's master. What exactly was going on? Duan Ling Tian was completely puzzled. Amidst, Vice Fortress Master Ning. You don't need to worry about my monastic brothers and me. Please go about your business. As for Sect Master Pei, my monastic brothers and I will entertain him on your behalf. Hui Ming smiled at Ning Kan, looking as smug as could be. Ning Kan's face turned ashen with anger, but with how things had developed, he couldn't say much more. He looked around and said in a deep voice, "The 4th round of selections for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts competition begins." Duan Ling Tian was just about to ask Jian Shi about the 3 monks and the plain-clothed middle-aged man when he heard Ning Kan's voice. He temporarily suppressed the confusion in his heart and flew out to be by the time Duan Ling Tian arrived at the central area above the fighting arena. The representatives and young talents of the 10 dynasties had also come back to their senses one by one at the appearance of the 3 monks, the plain-clothed middle-aged man, and the plain-clothed young man also left them confused. They could tell that both the 3 monks and the plain-clothed middle-aged man and young man were clearly from extraordinary backgrounds. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caused the 2 vice fortress masters of the Azure Wolf Fortress to lose their composure like that. Now that Ning Kan had announced the start of the 4th round of selections, they all suppressed their confusion and looked at Duan Ling Tian. I wonder who Duan Ling Tian will challenge first. Someone was full of curiosity about this. The owner of token number 10 is Duan Ling Tian's friend, so he probably won't challenge him first. I think he'll probably challenge the owner of token number 9. Many people looked towards the great Qing dynasty's camp, their gaze falling on Yi Ling being watched by many eyes. Yi Ling was somewhat eager to try, wishing Duan Ling Tian would challenge her. Perhaps she could obtain token number 1 because of it. Unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian didn't even look at her. I challenge. Duan Ling Tian slowly began, paused, and continued. The owner of token number 2, Zishang. Zishang. As soon as Duan Ling Tian spoke, the scene erupted in an uproar. Most people hadn't expected Duan Ling Tian to challenge Zishang. Only those who knew about the conflict between Duan Ling Tian and Zishang understood why Duan Ling Tian would make such a choice. For a time, many people's gazes fell on Zishang. They were all very curious about the true strength of this Zishang, who had been accepted as a personal disciple by the vice fortress master of the Azure Wolf Fortress. Based on the strength Zishang had displayed before, it shouldn't have been enough to earn him token number 2, but since he was able to get token number 2 and could be accepted as a personal disciple by Vice Fortress Master Ning, it was enough to show that he was not simple. Perhaps he had been hiding his true strength from the beginning. Zishang, Vice Fortress Master Ning's personal disciple. Duan Ling Tian, the one who refused to become Vice Fortress Master Ning's personal disciple. Their fight is sure to be exciting. I think that Duan Ling Tian probably also hid his strength. Every time he makes a move, it seems to only show the tip of the iceberg. I have that feeling too. Since he could get token number 1, he must have some real skill. Unconsciously, many people's impressions of Duan Ling Tian had changed. They no longer unanimously believed that Duan Ling Tian had obtained token number 1 through opportunism. Ning Kan's personal disciple? The surrounding discussions made the two middle-aged monks, Hui Ming and Hui Jing, look at Zishang in unison, following everyone's gaze. Even the plain-clothed middle-aged man, Peiyan, Zhang Yan's master, now had his gaze fixed on Zishang. Zishang, Zhang Yan remained expressionless, but in the depths of his eyes, a hint of surprise was clearly visible. Apparently, he hadn't expected to see Zishang here either. As for Duan Ling Tian, he had seen him when he first arrived. Although he was somewhat surprised that Duan Ling Tian could appear here, he wasn't overly shocked. After all, back in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Duan Ling Tian had already displayed terrifying talent, so his current achievements were not surprising. Seeing Duan Ling Tian again, he no longer harbored the same hostility as before, perhaps because he had completely severed his emotions. In the past, he had emptied his heart for Zishang's younger sister, Ziyin, but in the end, it was all in vain. From the moment Ziyin swore an oath with the 99 heavenly tribulation that she could never like him in this life, he was utterly disheartened, even wanting to die. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed. Later, by chance, he met an emotion-severing sect disciple who was out for a stroll, sharing similar plights and finding mutual understanding. He joined the emotion-severing sect with the other party. There, he found his ultimate belonging, and his state at that time perfectly matched the cultivation philosophy of the emotion-severing sect, so his cultivation progressed rapidly. Later, he was even noticed by the vice sect master of the emotion-severing sect, Peiyan, and became Peiyan's personal disciple. After several years of cultivation, coupled with the endless resources Peiyan provided him, his cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, and his comprehension of intent became even more profound. Now, even within the entire emotion-severing sect, no other young generation disciple could surpass him. Not long ago, his master had a breakthrough in cultivation and successfully took over as the sect master of the emotion-severing sect, which elevated his status within the emotion-severing sect even further, and he was publicly recognized as the successor to the next sect master of the emotion-severing sect. It was precisely because of this that when Zhang Yan saw Duan Ling Tian again, he no longer harbored the same hostility as he did back then. Duan Ling Tian had noticed this earlier. However, he didn't know the reason. I surrender. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Zishang, who had been called out by Duan Ling Tian, declared his surrender without any hesitation. Surrender? Immediately, the scene erupted in an uproar. Aside from a few who knew that Duan Ling Tian could counter Zishang, everyone else looked puzzled, wondering why Zishang didn't even have the courage to fight Duan Ling Tian. Is Duan Ling Tian really that strong? Even Zishang doesn't dare to fight him. I think it was Zishang who let him win. But he and Duan Ling Tian don't seem to get along. And he's also Vice Fortress Master Ning's personal disciple. So logically, he shouldn't let Duan Ling Tian win, no matter what. Not even having the courage to step onto the stage. This Zishang is truly too cowardly. A series of merciless taunts reached Zishang's ears, and his face completely darkened. There was naturally a reason why he didn't dare to accept Duan Ling Tian's challenge. He knew in his heart that with Duan Ling Tian's hatred for him, if he dared to step onto the stage, Duan Ling Tian would definitely kill him without mercy. Although he had Old Ghost as a trump card, this trump card of his was precisely countered by Duan Ling Tian and couldn't be used at all. And if he faced Duan Ling Tian with his own strength, Duan Ling Tian's illusion soul skill could completely kill him before he could surrender. Therefore, surrendering was his only choice. And also the best choice. Only this way could he survive. Asterisk seeing his direct disciple being ridiculed in such a way, Ning Kan's expression remained unchanged, as if he hadn't heard those unpleasant words at all. Of course, the reason he could remain so calm was that he had long known from Zishang that Duan Ling Tian could restrain him. Shang naturally didn't say that the demon sealing tablet in Duan Ling Tian's hand could restrain him, but rather unified the story he had told Feng Wei earlier, saying that Duan Ling Tian and he were both anomalies, and that Duan Ling Tian's innate divine ability happened to restrain his. Regardless, Zishang had conceded. and Duan Ling Tian's first battle was thus victorious. Whoosh. Duan Ling Tian returned to Feng Tian Wu and the others, and the first thing he did was look at Jianshi San, unable to resist asking through a voice transmission of his Yuan Li. Senior, who exactly are those three monks and that Pan? What are they doing at Song Wolf Fort? Duan Ling Tian was very confused about this. They came to Song Wolf Fort for you all. Jianshi San's Yuan Li voice transmission entered Duan Ling Tian's ears, answering his question. For us. Duan Ling Tian looked puzzled, completely unaware of what Jianshi San meant. Jianshi San continued. Some things, there's no need to hide them now. Do you know why Song Wolf Fort is holding this 10 Dynasty martial arts meet? Why? Duan Ling Tian shook his head. He naturally wouldn't know this. Of course, although he didn't know, he subconsciously felt that something was amiss, because in the history of the Great Han Dynasty, there had never been a grand event similar to the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet before, and for an outer realm power like Song Wolf Fort to personally host such a grand event. For the young talents of the 10 dynasties made it even stranger. If someone said that Song Wolf Fort had no ulterior motives, Duan Ling Tian naturally wouldn't believe it. One must know that for this 10 Dynasty martial arts meet, Song Wolf Fort had promised many rewards, which was why it mobilized the 10 dynasties to flock to it. Otherwise, the 10 dynasties would not have paid any attention to Song Wolf Fort. Initially, Duan Ling Tian also thought that perhaps Song Wolf Fort wanted to recruit disciples through this 10 Dynasty martial arts meet. But on second thought, something felt wrong. Even if Song Wolf Fort wanted to recruit disciples, it didn't seem necessary to hold a 10 Dynasty martial arts meet. They could completely send people to the 10 dynasties and then spread the news. Once that happened, any outstanding young talents in the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet would certainly be interested. That way, Song Wolf Fort wouldn't need to pay any remuneration to the 10 dynasties. Although the remuneration Song Wolf Fort paid to the 10 dynasties was nothing to Song Wolf Fort, even a small mosquito is still meat. And everyone understands the principle of saving where one can. Since Song Wolf Fort was willing to pay what could be considered generous remuneration to the 10 dynasties for the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet, then it certainly wouldn't do a losing business. Of course, these were all Duan Ling Tian's own conjectures. Soon, Duan Ling Tian knew that his conjectures were not wrong. Song Wolf Fort is holding this 10 Dynasty martial arts meet to select excellent young martial artists from the 10 dynasties. These young martial artists will bring great benefits to Song Wolf Fort. As for what specific benefits, I can't tell you yet, but you will know very soon. Jianshi San said to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian suddenly understood, then asked, So, Senior, you came here to get a share of the pie with Song Wolf Fort, wanting to take away half of the excellent young martial artists. That's right. Jianshi San nodded. At this point, there was nothing to hide. Even that bald donkey Hui Ming from Cloud Sky Temple and Payan from Heartbreak Sect came here for you excellent young martial artists. Originally, I planned to join forces with Song Wolf Fort to make the bald donkeys from Cloud Sky Temple retreat in the face of difficulty. But who knew? They actually found people from Heartbreak Sect. Towards the end, Jianshi San sounded a bit helpless after Jianshi San's explanation. Duan Ling Tian could temporarily piece together the general outline of the matter, for certain reasons. Whether it was Song Wolf Fort, Sword and Saber Sect, or even Cloud Sky Temple and Heartbreak Sect, they all wanted to find a group of excellent young martial artists, and Song Wolf Fort held the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet to find excellent young martial artists, because doing so could achieve their goal most efficiently. Senior, if I'm not mistaken, the reason your major sects want to find excellent young martial artists is likely to have us enter a certain place to seek benefits for you, and that place should have an inscription array set up prohibiting martial artists over 40 years old from entering. Is that right? A flash of insight sparked in Duan Ling Tian's mind, and he vaguely guessed some things, asking Jianshi San through a Yuan Li voice transmission. All of this was his conjecture based on Song Wolf Fort's requirements for participating in the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet. He still remembered that a few days before the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet began, the first young talent who was found to be 40 years old by the age-measuring pearl was angrily killed by Feng Wei. Clearly, Song Wolf Fort highly valued the age of the young talents participating in the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet. You, how do you know? Hearing Duan Ling Tian's conjecture, Jian Shi San was greatly astonished. I guessed. Duan Ling Tian laughed, then added, furthermore, I can also guess that the place your major sects plan to send excellent young martial artists to should be left behind by a martial emperor powerhouse. Jian Shi San was completely speechless that he knew that Duan Ling Tian's martial arts talent and comprehension were heaven-defying. But he never expected Duan Ling Tian's mind to be so meticulous, able to connect so many things through just a few small clues. That's right. The place their sword and saber sect wanted to send excellent young martial artists into was indeed left behind by a martial emperor powerhouse, and that place indeed had age restrictions for those entering. Martial artists who were 40 years old or older would surely die if they entered. Seeing Jian Shi San stunned, Duan Ling Tian knew that his conjecture was not wrong. A place left behind by a martial emperor powerhouse, and with such an inscription array, there must be many good things inside. I never thought that Song Wolf Fort's purpose in holding the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet was for this. Duan Ling Tian sighed, feeling a faint excitement in his heart at the same time. Perhaps, before obtaining the great treasure left by the reincarnation martial emperor, he could first make a windfall. He imagined that there would be many good things in that place. Otherwise, how could outer realm powers like Song Wolf Fort, Sword and Saber Sect, Cloud Sky Temple, and Heartbreak Sect flock to it? After all, no one is stupid. No one would do something thankless at the same time. Duan Ling Tian's gaze fell on the central area above the fighting arena, where Zishang, who had conceded after being challenged by him, was standing. After Zishang appeared, his gaze immediately fell on Duan Ling Tian's side. To be precise, it fell on Feng Tianwu. Seeing this, Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened, and a cold glint flickered in his eyes. This Zishang actually truly wanted to deal with Tianwu. I challenged the owner of token number 7, Feng Tianwu. Zishang spoke, directly challenging Feng Tianwu. Feng Tianwu flew out and stood opposite Zishang, her beautiful face completely calm. Whoosh. Immediately, the scene erupted in an uproar again. This Zishang, he conceded in front of Duan Ling Tian just now, and now he wants to challenge Feng Tianwu. Does he think Feng Tianwu is inferior to Duan Ling Tian? Duan Ling Tian's strength currently displayed seems far inferior to Feng Tianwu's, right? So far, Duan Ling Tian has shown a cultivation of the second level of the void prying stage and a mid-level second-level wind intent. And Feng Tianwu has not only shown a cultivation of the second level of the void prying stage, but also a mid-level fourth-level fire intent. Zishang, Duan Ling Tian, and Feng Tianwu are all from the Great Han Dynasty. Logically speaking, he should understand whose strength is stronger or weaker between Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu. Since he chose Feng Tianwu, he must know that Feng Tianwu's strength is weaker than Duan Ling Tian's. It should be so. The representatives and young talents of the various dynasties discussed animatedly. The space above the fighting arena seemed to have turned into a bustling marketplace. Second level of the void prying stage, fourth level fire intent. Hearing the discussions around them, whether it was the 3 monks from Cloud Sky Temple or Pei and Zhang Yin from Heartbreak Sect, they all looked at Feng Tianwu with surprise. This woman looked to be at most in her early 20s. She was not only a martial artist at the second level of the void prying stage, but also comprehended fourth level fire intent. Deputy Fort Master Ning, how old is this young lady? Hui Ming looked at Ning Kan and asked curiously. Ning Kan snorted coldly. 25 years old. 25 years old. As soon as Ning Kan's words fell, not only Hui Ming, Hui Jing, and the young monk behind them, but even Peiyan and Zhang Yin were greatly shocked out of course. Although Peiyan and Zhang Yin were shocked, they didn't show it on their faces. Only a hint of horror flashed in their eyes. People of the Heartbreak Sect were emotionless and resolute. Even in the face of upheaval, their expressions remained as calm as ever. Looking at Feng Tianwu, a cold smile appeared on Zishang's lips. Originally, he had no grievances with Feng Tianwu, but because Feng Tianwu was close to Duan Lingtian. He also regarded Feng Tianwu as his enemy in his heart. Now, his master ordered him to kill Feng Tianwu. So he went with the flow and prepared to kill Feng Tianwu. Use your secret technique. Feng Tianwu stood opposite Zishang and said indifferently, "Secret technique?" As soon as Feng Tianwu said this, the onlookers were momentarily stunned. It seems Zishang really did hide his strength. Many people reacted and sighed, just as numerous gazes fell on Zishang. He sneered, "As you wish." In an instant, a small black dot appeared between Zishang's eyebrows, clearly exposed to everyone's gaze. Immediately after, the small black dot continuously grew larger. Finally, it transformed into a wisp of black flame mark. The scene before them made the onlookers collectively stunned, completely unaware of what was happening. The changes on Zishang were too bizarre in their eyes. Payan, the sect master of Heartbreak Sect, who stood in the distant sky, frowned slightly, his heart filled with doubt. What's going on? How does he seem to have suddenly become a different person?